some RV manufacturers, some RV dealerships, and a lot of RV influencers are going to be super pissed at this video and super pissed at me. Why? Because it boils down to one word: money. That's what it boils down to. I mean, we can try to make it more complicated than that, but it really comes down to dollars and cents. Now, to me, if we lay all our cards out on the table, we got a great chance of having big growth in 2026 when it comes to the RV industry. So to me, the juice is worth the squeeze. Welcome to HB RV Lifestyle, and today is your first RV industry update of 2026. Now, I want to fair warn everybody, okay? There's going to be a lot of negativity posted this way about this video, okay? And the main reason why is there's something called brand deals, affiliate marketing. These are the ways that influencers in every niche on everything from TikTok to YouTube to Instagram to Facebook, this is how they make a living. And pretty much what I'm doing today is pretty much squatting over, pulling down my pants, and pooping on it, okay? Especially when it comes to the RV industry. So I'm going to forewarn everybody now, you might read some real negative comments, and I'm going to do my best to moderate them because I don't like to delete comments, but if it gets really out of hand, I might have to, okay? So just want to prepare people for that, okay? Now, I'm not going to do this like I normally do where I do like segmented videos where it's like an hour or hour and a half. I'm going to try to make this under 30 minutes, and we're going to start with lithium batteries and the Battle-Born battery conversation. Now, I'm not going to call any more than a conversation right now, but I think the video that was done on Battle-Born batteries within the last couple of days was really good. In fact, it was so good that I'm going to link it in the description box below so you guys can see it a little bit later. I think it was a well-done video, but it also needs to be talked about more on a broader scale when it comes to other companies. So what I did was I actually took his video, broke down the transcript, put it into ChatGPT, and said, explain it to me as if I was a golden retriever. And literally I did say that, okay? And it broke it down and I read it verbatim on my last video. And what it pretty much says, and the short version of the very long story, is that lithium battery capabilities are being over exaggerated when it comes to the RV industry and the car industry and a lot of other industries, okay? Now, that's not to say lithium batteries are bad. I want to make sure that's up front. But I think it's been oversold, the capabilities, unless you're spending a ton of money, okay? Now, in fairness, I have always said it probably costs you between $30,000 and $40,000 to do a proper solar and proper battery setup with all that stuff to run all your appliances, including your air conditioner, within, let's say, for an entire day or entire 3 days without destroying the battery capabilities, okay? Now, in fairness to that, I've seen some people that have emailed me, direct messaged me, and also put in the comments that it cost them about 12 grand, 15 grand, 18 grand, and the cheapest I have heard of, which is a guy who actually did it all himself, was $9,500 on a 25-foot travel trailer with only one air conditioner, okay? But I've seen some guys who have emailed me and said, here's my setup, and they've got a 40-foot motorhome, and they've got probably about a $25,000 setup between battery, solar, and everything else, splitter ACs, things of that nature. But the point is that it's being sold as an affordable option for alternative energy or green energy. It's not being sold properly to the RV dealerships, to the RV manufacturers. So I got a lot of heat for me saying in a live stream that I don't blame Brinkley, Grand Design, Forest River. I don't blame them directly. I blame the OEM that's selling them on this bill of goods, because there's just hardly any way to run an air conditioner on a power management system for less than 5-digit money. It's just a fact. Now, to prove that point, okay, I had a used Rockwood GeoPro, little 19-foot travel trailer on the lot that had over 800 watts of solar, 3 lithium battery packs, and had a great system, great power management system. It cost people about $8,500. In pure sunlight, we ran the AC off just the batteries for 4.5 hours before the batteries drained. Now, they installed some kind of safety mechanism where if it dropped down to a certain level on the batteries, it would automatically kill it off. So I don't understand that. I'm not an engineer or technician, so I'm not even going to try to explain that, okay? Maybe somebody can explain that in the comments, but it was like a safety switch, so that way the batteries didn't go below what they're supposed to, so that way it doesn't kill their capacity. That all being said, lithium batteries are awesome. Lithium batteries are cool in conjunction with a gasoline, propane, or solar generator. What do I mean by that? Okay, so the reality is, if you go take a look at all this battle-born controversy or conversation, the reality is that if you bring a generator and you do your homework on the proper batteries and spend the proper amount of money on a battery and its capabilities and its charge controller and match it all up accordingly, and you use it for your plugins, your coffee maker, your blender, your maybe an air fryer. If you do all that and you use your generator, whether it's a gasoline, a propane, a diesel, or solar generator, as a backup charger and something to run your air conditioner and your microwave, you're never going to have an issue. Your issues are going to be with the battery company, like Battleborn, who either has a problem with the heating source, a problem with the charging, or just an overall issue of maybe it doesn't belong in the industry. Maybe it's an overrated battery. And if that doesn't make sense, I'm going to do another video that's probably going to piss people off. I'm actually going to have 3 actual solar experts on the actual channel over the next 3 months that are actually going to back me up on this, okay? And these are guys that have been doing solar and battery setups on motorhomes and fifth wheels and stuff since the 1990s, okay? Now, obviously, technology has increased since then, but they've been doing it forever. Before, it was like a big fad in the RV world, right? Okay. Now, that all being said, RV influencers are going to be mad. Solar panel people are going to be mad. Battery sales people and companies are going to be mad because I'm basically taking their pitch that they gave the RV manufacturers, the RV dealers, and the RV community, and I'm trashing it. But I'm not. Because the reality is, here's the biggest thing, biggest takeaway. It will get there. That's what everybody forgets, that I always say. It will get there. Technology is going to improve over the next 5 or 6 or 7 years, and it's going to become more affordable and more efficient. It's not going to stay stagnant where it's at. And let me tell you this, with all the AI technology out there, okay, all the AI technology going out there, all the leaps and bounds in AI, that's going to eventually help solve a lot of the problems as well. So there you go. Now, does it mean don't go buy a solar panel? Don't go buy batteries? Don't go buy that stuff? No. It means understand its real capabilities and its real cost. Okay? It's not cheap. Okay? Now, I get the entire reason why people want that setup. There are RV parks that are overfilled, reservations that you have to make 6 months to 7 months in advance. By the way, it's a great segue into the next thing I'm going to talk about. So I understand that it's kind of cool. Hey, we can go off in this little area on this back road with our new suspension on our travel trailer and motorhome. And hey, it's only going to be 80 degrees outside. We got our generator. We have this full solar setup. We can go out and cook food, take showers. You know, if we got an electric element to our hot water heater. I mean, I get the entire reason why people want to do that. I would want to do that. I don't want to be around people right now, so I totally understand it. But just understand what the real capabilities are before you jump in. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm asking. That's a great segue because we're talking about, there's conversations that have been happening over the last 6 months about a lot of RV parks have started to raise their prices where it's pretty much cost you the same amount of money to stay in a Hampton Inn or Holiday Inn to park at some of these RV resorts per night. That's getting a little ridiculous. Now, I foresee with all this stuff about overlanding, and I see a lot of people that are opening up dry camping or overland style campgrounds, or you're seeing a lot more places like, I'll give you an example, like Kachuma Lake in Santa Barbara, where you can spend an entire weekend there for 75 bucks. We're starting to see more of those campgrounds. We're starting to see a lot more of those type of camping areas becoming more popular. I foresee that by the time summer of 2026 is over, a lot of those resorts that pump their prices up are going to end up coming down. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that in 2025, you had so many people trying to make reservations for certain popular resorts, they jacked their prices up to try to get people to not reserve and make more profit. So you make more profit per campsite, and you eliminate a lot of the folks that are trying to get a reservation at $100. So let's pump it up to 300 bucks and we'll limit the reservations, keep the park semi-cleaner, even though a lot of them are ruined and torn up, as a lot of you have told me in the past. So that's one of the biggest issues that we're going to run into for the RV resorts. But at the same time, I think their prices are going to start coming down by the time the end of 2026 comes around, because we're going to see a lot more of people going to the middle of Arizona desert during the spring. You know, going out into places that people do camp at, but it's not a mass camping area. I see a lot more RV type camping at ghost towns. I see a lot more RV camping in places where there are no electricity, there are no water spots. I see a lot more of that happening because of the capabilities we do have with solar, lithium batteries, generators, solar generators. I see a lot more of that happening, and more of it happening as the technology improves and becomes more affordable. So they're going to have no choice but to lower their pricing, which is a great segue into the next thing we're going to talk about, which is RV pricing. Man, are there a lot of you out there that still think that a crash is coming. So I've decided I'm going to take the next 10 minutes to explain to you why there will never be a RV price crash the way you want it to be. Okay? Listen very carefully. First off, in order for something like 08 and 09 to happen again, companies have to go out of business. So, Rev Group owns the name Fleetwood, the name Monaco. They are not the same company that they were back in the 1990s and 2000s. Not the same company whatsoever. John Crean doesn't own Fleetwood anymore. It went bankrupt. It went belly up. Period. So, back in 2009, 10, and 11, you could go buy a Monaco, a Fleetwood, a Beaver, a Simba, a Safari. You could buy a ton of these motorhomes for pennies on the dollar compared, watch this, to what they were when they were in business. Now, why is that possible? Well, let me tell you the two reasons why. Number one is the lenders said we're not going to borrow on that inventory anymore and made the RV dealerships either pay it off in full, or it went to an auction and you were basically billed a balance, and they were no longer going to carry it on their floor plan, their flooring line. Now, that's a simplistic version of a more complicated story, okay? That's a very oversimplified version. But at the end of the day, most of that inventory that was sitting on the dealership lot was owned in cash. It was cash flow. So, and Frankie, forgive me, because I know you watch this, but I'm going to use your dad and your company as an example, because I was around for that, okay? Bob Baruti, God rest his soul, had to pay off a bunch of stuff, and then had to back the warranty himself because there was no company to back the warranty. So he would take $120,000 loss on a $300,000 diesel pusher invoice, not MSRP, what he originally paid for it. He would take 120 grand loss to move the product because he owned it in cash because it went out of business. Does that make sense? Okay, so in order for there to be another crash in pricing like that, the company would have to go out of business. So if you want Brinkley to lower its price by 50%, if it's a $100,000 invoice, you should be able to sell it for 50 grand because, that price crash is coming. Then Brinkley would have to go completely out of business, bankrupt, belly up, and the lenders no longer want to lend on that inventory. That's the only way it's going to happen. We already are seeing the manufacturers back off how much they're building. They're already starting to plan ahead that 2026 is going to be a slower shipping year than 2025. So they're going to balance out the inventory to make sure that they don't have to discount the prices 20, 30% and lose money. Remember, everybody has to make money for this industry to stay afloat. The guy who sells the part, so let's use an example. Let's remove Lippert completely out of the equation. Okay, let's pretend Lippert doesn't exist for a second. Let's say mom and pop are building water pumps for Grand Design Transcend. Okay, they have to make money selling that product to Grand Design. Grand Design has to turn around and make money selling the trailer that they build to the dealership. The dealership then has to turn around and make money selling it. So everybody has to profit somewhere to stay in business. You can't sell things for a loss and stay in business. I don't care if you're a socialist, communist, capitalist country, if you're losing money selling something, you're not going to be in business very long. So everybody has to make money. How they make money is kind of weird sometimes. Like, I'll give you an example. There's dealerships that put rock bottom stupid pricing on the internet, and then when you go walk over to the dealership, they charge you prep, they charge you freight. They never admit that they're going to do it until you get there, but there's people who do that. And there's people that are higher priced that say, oh, we don't charge prep and we don't charge freight. Well, yeah, you do. You just don't do it separately. You have it built into the selling price. So there's so many dealerships, manufacturers, OEMs, everybody has to make money. The people who are building them have to make money. The people that are selling them have to make money. That's just a fact of life. So unless a company goes completely out of business and the lenders like Bank of America and Chase and Ally and all these companies, unless they decide to stop borrowing on that unit, on that company, prices are never going to crash. Where they might crash is in the used RV market, and that's only if certain things happen. Now, I'll go over that in more detail in another video. But that's a great segue to the used RV market. Boy, we're doing good keeping this under 30 minutes. Okay. The used RV market in 2026, I think, will finally come to a head. And what I mean by that is evidence is being shown that private sellers are finally waking up and going, wow, yeah, I overspent during COVID, and if I spent 50 grand on this trailer, I'm not going to recuperate 30. Not when they can go buy a brand new one for 36. I think that's finally starting to come around. So what's happening? Well, there's a lot of voluntary repossessions that are still being done even to today and will be done for the next 6 months to 2 years. Those voluntary repos are going into auctions. The auctions are trying to get maximum money for them. There's a guy who actually goes to auctions that's on TikTok, and he's actually owns an RV dealership. He does a pretty good job. I mean, he's lying through his teeth about a lot of stuff, but he's a salesman. Okay, so I mean, I can't blame the guy. He's trying to stay in business. He's trying to be a salesman. I get it. But I bet you if you actually walked with him on the lot live and went through the auction live with him, he more than likely passes on probably 75% of what he bids on, because there's a reserve price, and what's happening is none of the dealers want to pay the bank's reserve price. So I've talked about this in length in other videos. But the short version, long story is FEMA, when it gets its new budget, is going to buy out a lot of the stuff within the auctions for the reserve price that these banks want. And it's going to go directly into the Federal Emergency Management Agency for hurricanes, forest fires, things of that nature. It's actually going to hurt the manufacturing of the RV industry because they usually are the ones that build them. But what's going to happen is the banks are going to ask for a bailout because they got all buried in all this bad debt and these bad loans in the boat, RV, and car industry. So what will the Federal Emergency Management Agency do? They will simply take all that bad debt, buy it out from the bank by taking the trucks, trailers, motorhomes, whatever they can use for FEMA, and leave the manufacturers in the dust because the lenders control the country. And they need a bailout. So the biggest bailout in RV history is going to be done behind the scenes between the federal government and the banks. Your tax dollars at work are going to bail out the banks. And what's sad about that is it's going to limit how much used inventory comes back on the market that is good pieces. Your Grand Design Solitudes or Reflections that are under 35 feet that don't have the frame problem. Your Brinkley travel trailers. I've seen like 10, 15 Brinkley travel trailers that are like 295s. Yes, I complain about their leaking, but they're still nice looking units and they're still pretty darn good units, right? Okay, you got a lot of Alliance product in there. You got a lot of good Forest River Rockwood and Flagstaff product in there. And it's never going to see the light of day or see a dealership lot. It's never going to see the private market. Or already saw the private market, nobody bought it because it's way overpriced because the people owe too much money than it's worth because they bought during COVID at the top of the market. So the reality is that the lenders are going to get bailed. That's the reason why the lenders haven't lowered their prices at the auctions on a lot of stuff. There's some stuff they've lowered it on, okay? Some cars, some SUVs, but the reality, all the high-priced trucks, high-end trucks, all the bigger trucks, all the bigger heavy equipment, all the RVs and some of the boats, they are all staying at a high price of the auction so FEMA can come bail them out of that loan if, watch this, if the dealers don't buy it at that high price first. Now that brings me to the last point about used. There's a lot of misunderstanding about used lending. Now, when we're talking about used RVs and how you are supposed to get a loan for used RVs, just because a unit is cheap doesn't mean the payment's going to be cheap. Okay? There's a lot of folks out there that don't understand that the used RV market is about to change a lot in 2026 based on what lenders and credit unions and banks are willing to do term-wise. Just saw it happen recently where a 2015 travel trailer that was $12,000, the person needed $3,000 down with his own credit union to qualify for the loan, and they were only going to give him a 3-year term. So at a 3-year term, for the payment, they could have bought a brand new coach. Now, for me personally, that $12,000 coach, paying it off in 3 years, it was worth it. It was a high-end trailer. It was a Northwood manufacturing product. Okay, but when they came in and were like, man, we got a better rate, but instead of being a 7-year term, it's a 3-year term. So when we did the math, we're like, yeah, the payment's lower on the 7-year term by about $50, but when you pay it off in 3 years, you're only paying X amount of interest. So I told them, just keep the loan, you got your bank. Because we don't make, on a lot of stuff like that, people have a misunderstanding. When I get a loan for a 2010, 12, 14, 15 travel trailer motorhome, there's no reserve money. Once in a while, we'll get 1% from a credit union or 2% from a credit union, of the amount financed. But the reality is there's no money in financing an old travel trailer. So that's why, like, a lot of times when people come in a lot, so will I get a better deal if I finance that 2017 travel trailer? Nope, because it's cash no matter what to us. When we get you a loan, they just give us the cashier's check. We don't get a bonus check on top. Oh. And I said, so every deal is a cash deal when it's an older used RV. Oh. Well, can I get like a $150 payment on that $10,000 trailer? Like, no, dude, like it's a 2003. You're probably talking about 2-year, 3-year loan, personal loan, things of that nature. That's how we get them. There's alternative financing. And actually, what's interesting is if you go into the top right hand corner, which I think is that corner right there of this video, I actually have a playlist of all my RV finance videos. Apparently, I'm wrong about everything in every video I do, but hopefully that will be helpful to you. Until next time, remember that RV always stands for toolkit and sense of humor.